Tonight, when your phone slips from your hand, when your eyes close, when the room goes silent, your future quietly takes instructions. Not tomorrow, not next year, not when you feel ready. Tonight, most people think their life is controlled by effort, by hard work, by intelligence, by luck. That belief alone is why they stay trapped. Napoleon Hill spent decades studying the richest, most powerful minds of his era, and he discovered something deeply unsettling. People do not fail because they lack ability. They fail because their subconscious mind has already decided they will. That decision is rarely made during the day. It is made at night. Look around you. Every night, millions of people lie in bed, scrolling endlessly. Short videos, other people's success, other people's confidence, other people's freedom, and without realizing it, they are feeding their subconscious one silent message. I am behind. I am not enough. This life is not meant for me. Then they sleep, and while their conscious mind shuts down, the subconscious mind wakes up. Napoleon Hill called it the most dangerous servant in the world. Dangerous not because it rebels, but because it never questions orders. It works while you sleep. It works while you rest. It works while you dream. And it builds your reality exactly according to what you last impressed upon it. That's why some people work endlessly yet stay stuck. That's why motivation fades. That's why discipline collapses. They are trying to change their life with the conscious mind, while the subconscious mind is quietly sabotaging everything. Here is the brutal truth. No one explains clearly your conscious mind chooses goals. Your subconscious mind chooses identity, and identity always wins. During the day, your conscious mind is alert, logical, suspicious. It acts like a strict security guard. Is this realistic? Is this possible for someone like me? People from my background don't live like that. Napoleon Hill described this as self-imposed limitation, beliefs installed so early and repeated so often that they feel like facts. So big ideas are blocked, ambition is rejected. Confidence feels fake, but at night something changes. As your breathing slows, as your body relaxes, as the mind drifts, that guard becomes weak, logic dissolves, resistance collapses, and a golden window opens, a window where thoughts enter without being challenged, a window where emotions bypass logic, a window where the subconscious mind becomes programmable. This is the same window that built empires and destroyed potential. Think of your mind like soil. Every single night, seeds are planted. You can choose them, or randomness will choose for you. Most people allow weeds. They replay stress. They replay failure. They replay comparison. They replay fear. Then they wonder why life never changes. Napoleon Hill warned that whatever the mind repeatedly accepts becomes a command. Commands become habits. Habits become character. Character becomes destiny. This is not motivation. This is mechanics. And tonight, the mechanism will activate again. The only question is this: will you allow your future to be programmed accidentally or deliberately? In the next pages, you will learn a precise nightly system, not hype, not hope. A system built on how the subconscious actually works. A system that takes only 10 minutes, not during the day, not through force, but through alignment. By the time you reach the end of this journey, you will understand one uncomfortable truth: your life has never been stuck. It has only been programmed that way. And programming can be changed. Most people believe their problems come from the outside. Lack of money, lack of opportunity, lack of support. But Napoleon Hill discovered something far more disturbing. People do not rise to the level of their desires. They fall to the level of their self-image. And that self-image is not created consciously. It is installed silently over years through repetition and emotional imprinting. Your conscious mind thinks it is in control. It makes plans. It sets goals. It promises change. But the subconscious mind is the one that decides what feels normal for you. And whatever feels normal becomes your ceiling. This is why some people sabotage themselves right before success. This is why opportunities appear, yet feel, not for me. This is why ambition creates anxiety instead of excitement, because the subconscious mind is not interested in success. It is interested in consistency. Consistency with the identity it already holds. Napoleon Hill called this the habit of thought. A repeated belief becomes a command, and the subconscious executes commands without question. Here's how it works. Your mind operates on two different systems. The conscious mind is slow, analytical. temporary. It can focus on one thing at a time. It gets tired. It argues. It doubts. The subconscious mind is fast, emotional, permanent. It runs your breathing, your heartbeat, your posture, your tone of voice, your automatic reactions. It stores every emotionally charged experience you've ever had, and it never sleeps. During the day, the conscious mind acts as a filter. It blocks ideas that feel unfamiliar. You're aiming too high. This is risky. People like us don't live that way. Napoleon Hill referred to this as the fear of criticism and the fear of failure. Not external fears, but internal guardians trained to keep you safe by keeping you small. But safety is the enemy of growth, and at night, that safety system weakens. As the body relaxes, the conscious mind loses its grip. Its ability to question fades. This is not spiritual talk. This is neurological reality. The brain naturally shifts into slower frequencies as you approach sleep. Critical thinking shuts down. Imagination takes over. And imagination is the language of the subconscious. That is why childhood experiences shape adult behavior so deeply. Children absorb beliefs without resistance. At night, adults return to a similar state. Napoleon Hill understood this long before modern neuroscience caught up. That is why he emphasized autosuggestion before sleep, because ideas planted at night bypass logic and enter directly into identity. This is the difference between wishing and programming. Most people wish during the day, but they program at night, accidentally. They replay stress, they replay regret, they replay comparison. The subconscious takes notes, not in words, in emotions. And emotions are commands. If fear is repeated, the mind builds a fearful identity. If doubt is repeated, the mind builds a doubtful identity. If lack is repeated, the mind builds a scarcity identity. Then life begins to obey that identity. This is why effort alone never works. You cannot outwork a subconscious belief. You cannot hustle past an identity. You cannot force consistency when your self-image rejects success. Napoleon Hill warned that willpower is the weakest force in the human mind. It collapses under emotional pressure, but habit is unstoppable. And habits are born in the subconscious. So the real question is not, how hard are you trying? The real question is, what identity are you reinforcing every night before sleep? Because that identity decides what you tolerate, what you pursue, what you sabotage. And unless the subconscious identity changes, your external life cannot change permanently. In the next page, you will learn the first step of a system designed specifically to clear the subconscious space, not temporarily, but structurally. Not motivation, not inspiration, preparation. Because no new program works on a corrupted system. Before you install a new program, you must clear the system. This is the part most people skip. And because they skip it, nothing else works. They jump straight to affirmations. They jump straight to visualization. They jump straight to hope. But the subconscious mind does not respond to chaos. Napoleon Hill made one thing plainly clear: a confused mind cannot hold a definite purpose. If your inner world is cluttered, your commands become weak. Think about your day. From the moment you wake up, your mind is attacked. Notifications, news, opinions, deadlines, pressure, conversations you didn't want to have, problems you didn't solve. By night, your mind is exhausted, but not empty. It is noisy. And when you carry that noise into sleep, the subconscious mind does not rest. It continues processing the mess. This is why people wake up tired even after sleeping. The body rested. The mind did not. Napoleon Hill referred to this as mental drift, a state where the mind moves without direction, absorbing whatever appears strongest. Mental drift is dangerous because it hands control to randomness. And randomness never builds success. So the first step is not motivation. It is mental cleansing, not to feel good, but to create space. Because the subconscious mind accepts the strongest emotional input available. If stress is loud, it absorbs stress. If fear is loud, it absorbs fear. Your job is to lower the volume of everything else. This step takes only 5 minutes, but its impact is massive. You lie down, you close your eyes, you slow your breathing, not forcefully, not aggressively, slowly. As the breath slows, the nervous system follows. The body relaxes. The conscious mind loosens its grip. Now you replay your day, not to analyze, not to judge, not to fix. You watch. You see the morning, the conversations, the mistakes, the small wins, the stress. And then you let them go, one by one, like images dissolving into darkness. This is not meditation for peace. This is preparation for power. Because every unresolved emotional charge competes with your future vision. Napoleon Hill emphasized that emotion is the language of the subconscious. If old emotions remain active, new instructions lose strength. Clearing the mind is like wiping a lens. Only then can you see clearly. Only then can you command clearly. By the end of these 5 minutes, something subtle happens. Your mind feels quieter, lighter. Open. This is not relaxation. This is readiness. And readiness is rare. Most people go to sleep mentally polluted. You will not. In the next page, you will enter the most misunderstood part of the process. Visualization, not as fantasy, but as neurological conditioning. Most people misunderstand visualization. They treat it like daydreaming, like wishful thinking, like pretending. And because they misunderstand it, they never experience its power. Napoleon Hill never described visualization as fantasy. He described it as direct communication with the subconscious mind. Because the subconscious does not respond to words. It responds to images and emotion. This is where science and psychology quietly agree. When you imagine something vividly, the brain activates the same neural circuits as when you experience it physically. To the subconscious mind, real and imagined experiences look almost identical if the emotion is strong enough. That is the key most people miss: emotion. Visualization without emotion is useless. Emotion without clarity is chaotic. You need both. This step begins only after the mind is clean. A cluttered mind cannot visualize clearly. A noisy mind produces weak images. Now your mind is quiet, open, receptive. This is when you create a movie, not of what you want someday, but of what already feels real. Napoleon Hill called this the formation of a definite mental image, a clear picture of success held with faith and persistence. The mistake people make is being vague. I want to be rich. I want success. I want happiness. The subconscious mind does not understand vague instructions. It needs detail. Specificity creates authority, so you decide exactly what you want. Not what sounds impressive. Not what others want. What you want. You see the room you wake up in, the light, the air, the feeling in your body. You see the way you move through your day, calm, certain, unrushed. You see the work you do, the value you create, the respect you receive. Then you reach the moment that matters most. Proof. You see the numbers, the results, the confirmation that your effort has meaning, and you pause there, because this is where emotion floods in. Pride, gratitude, relief, certainty. Napoleon Hill emphasized that faith is a feeling, not a thought, and feelings are what the subconscious obeys. This is why first-person visualization is non-negotiable. You do not watch yourself succeed. You experience it. You see through your own eyes. You hear with your own ears. You feel the ground beneath your feet. This tells the subconscious one thing: this is me. And once the subconscious accepts an identity, it begins adjusting behavior automatically. Your attention shifts. Your decisions change. Your tolerance for distraction drops. You start noticing opportunities you ignored before. You take actions that felt uncomfortable earlier, not because you forced yourself, because the identity changed. Napoleon Hill warned that without repetition, even powerful images fade. That is why visualization must be practiced nightly, not occasionally, not when motivated. Consistently. This is how neural pathways strengthen. This is how belief becomes natural. Visualization is not about escaping reality. It is about training the mind to accept a higher standard as normal. Once something feels normal, the mind works to protect it. Visualization creates the image, but auto-suggestion gives it authority. This is the step Napoleon Hill considered the most dangerous, because when used unconsciously, it destroys lives, and when used deliberately, it builds them. Every word you repeat to yourself is a command, not to the conscious mind, but to the subconscious mind. And the subconscious mind does not evaluate truth. It evaluates repetition sus emotion. This is why negative self-talk is so powerful. People repeat it daily without resistance. I'm bad with money. I'm not consistent. People like me don't succeed. These are not thoughts. They are instructions. Napoleon Hill called this negative auto-suggestion the silent habit of feeding defeat into the subconscious. And because it is repeated emotionally, the mind accepts it as identity. Auto-suggestion works the same way in the opposite direction, but only when done correctly. Most people fail here because they copy affirmations, generic words, no emotion, no conviction. The subconscious rejects weak commands. So the first rule of auto-suggestion is personal authority. Your words must be specific, clear, definite. Napoleon Hill insisted on a definite purpose, a goal defined so precisely that the mind has no confusion. Vague statements create vague results. I will be successful means nothing. Successful how? When? Doing what? The subconscious needs clarity to act. The second rule is time-bound instruction. A goal without a time frame feels optional. The subconscious prioritizes urgency. This will happen within 6 months, creates tension, and tension creates focus. The third rule is value exchange. Napoleon Hill was firm on this principle. Nothing of value is achieved without giving value. Your subconscious must know why you deserve the result. Effort, skill development, service, discipline. This removes internal conflict because many people secretly believe they want success without paying the price. That contradiction weakens every affirmation. Now comes the delivery. Auto suggestion must be spoken, not whispered in the mind. Spoken words create vibration. Vibration creates emotional imprint. You speak slowly, deliberately, with awareness. The first repetition plants the seed. The second deepens it. The third strengthens belief. The fourth builds certainty. The fifth locks commitment. Emotion must rise with each repetition, not excitement, conviction, as if you are making a contract with yourself. Napoleon Hill advised doing this right before sleep because this is when resistance is lowest and belief enters without argument. While speaking, the image from visualization must remain alive. Words without images fade. Images without words drift. Together, they program identity. This is why repetition is non-negotiable. One night does nothing. A week begins change. 30 days restructures habit. This is not hope. This is neurological conditioning. Your brain begins firing new patterns. Old patterns weaken. Gradually, effort feels easier. Consistency feels natural, not because you changed your willpower, but because you changed what feels like you. Most people do not fail because the method is wrong. They fail because they break the system at its weakest point. Consistency. Napoleon Hill was brutally honest about this. He said discipline is not intensity. It is obedience to a decision. The subconscious mind does not respond to effort in bursts. It responds to patterns. 1 night of focus does nothing. 2 nights create curiosity. 7 nights create momentum. 30 nights create identity. But here is the trap. Most people rely on motivation to stay consistent, and motivation is unstable. It rises with emotion. It collapses with fatigue. Napoleon Hill warned that willpower is unreliable because it depends on mood, and mood is influenced by environment. This is why environment is not optional. It is strategic. Your surroundings either support your subconscious programming or silently sabotage it. Think about what happens at night. Phone next to the bed, notifications, noise, lights. Each distraction competes for attention. Each interruption weakens emotional intensity. The subconscious absorbs the strongest signal available. If the phone is louder than your intention, the phone wins. So environment design becomes a form of discipline. You dim the lights. You remove distractions. You signal to the mind this moment matters. Napoleon Hill believed ritual creates authority. When an action is repeated in the same setting, the mind treats it as serious. This is why religious rituals work, why athletes have routines, why habits stick when attached to context. Your nightly routine must feel deliberate, not rushed, not casual, because the subconscious does not obey half commitment. Another reason people fail is belief collapse. They start strong, they feel hope. Then results don't appear immediately. Doubt creeps in. Napoleon Hill called this the quitting habit, stopping one step before the breakthrough. The subconscious requires time to reorganize patterns. Old habits do not die politely, they resist. This is where faith becomes mechanical, not emotional. Faith is not optimism. Faith is continuing without evidence. And consistency is how faith becomes real. Each night you repeat the routine, you are not chasing results. You are reinforcing identity. I am someone who does this. I am someone who follows through. I am someone who programs their mind. That identity becomes self-protective. Skipping feels wrong. Discipline feels natural. This is the turning point most people never reach because they quit too early. Napoleon Hill observed that success often arrives after the greatest test of persistence, not before. Your environment and consistency are the bridge between intention and outcome. Without them, even the best system fails. With them, the subconscious has no choice but to comply. Most people who fail with this process are not lazy. They are not unintelligent. They are not incapable. They simply make mistakes that feel harmless, but are psychologically fatal. Napoleon Hill warned that the subconscious mind is extremely literal. It does not forgive inconsistency. It does not adjust for excuses. It obeys exactly what is repeated. The first mistake is divided focus. People try to change everything at once. More money, better health, stronger relationships, higher confidence. This overwhelms the subconscious. When too many commands are given, none are executed fully. Napoleon Hill emphasized the power of a single definite purpose. One clear direction concentrates emotional energy. Scatter it, and belief weakens. The second mistake is vagueness disguised as positivity. I want success. I want abundance. I want happiness. These words feel good, but they carry no instruction. The subconscious needs measurements, numbers, deadlines, specific outcomes. Clarity is not pressure. Clarity is control. The third mistake is emotional emptiness. People repeat affirmations mechanically. No feeling, no conviction. This turns words into noise. Napoleon Hill was clear: emotion is the fuel that drives thought into belief. Without emotion, repetition does nothing. The fourth mistake is inconsistency disguised as flexibility. Skipping nights, doing it when convenient, restarting after long gaps. The subconscious interprets this as uncertainty. Uncertainty weakens authority. A command given sometimes is not a command. It is a suggestion, and suggestions are ignored. The fifth mistake is impatience. People expect results before the internal shift is complete. They look for evidence too early. They measure progress externally. Napoleon Hill warned that impatience is proof of weak faith. The subconscious changes first. Behavior changes next. Results come last. If you stop before the internal shift stabilizes, everything collapses. The sixth mistake is internal contradiction. People say they want success but secretly resent responsibility. They want money but fear visibility. They want growth but cling to comfort. The subconscious feels this conflict, and when commands conflict, the strongest emotion wins, usually fear. This is why value exchange matters. You must accept the price internally before the reward arrives. The final mistake is forgetting gratitude. Gratitude is not politeness. It is reinforcement. When you express gratitude, you signal completeness instead of lack. Napoleon Hill understood that gratitude strengthens belief because it aligns emotion with expectation. Without gratitude, desire turns into desperation, and desperation repels consistency. These mistakes do not feel dramatic. They feel small. But over time, they dismantle progress silently. Avoiding them is not about perfection. It is about awareness. For years, ideas like visualization and autosuggestion were dismissed as philosophy. Too abstract, too soft, too unscientific. But modern neuroscience quietly confirmed what Napoleon Hill understood intuitively. The brain is not fixed. It is plastic. This ability of the brain to change its structure is called neuroplasticity. Every thought you think activates a network of neurons. When the same thought is repeated, the same network fires again. Over time, that network strengthens. This is not metaphor. This is physical change. Neurons that fire together wire together. This is why habits feel automatic. The neural pathway is already built. Napoleon Hill described this long before brain scans existed. He said thoughts held in the mind, mixed with emotion and repeated, become beliefs. Beliefs then express themselves as behavior. Science now agrees. Your conscious mind processes a small amount of information at a time. Your subconscious processes millions of bits every second. This means most of your decisions are not conscious. They are automatic, driven by patterns installed over time. When you visualize with emotion, you activate the same neural circuits used during real experience. The brain does not fully distinguish between real and vividly imagined events. This is why your heart races during a movie. You know it's fiction. Your subconscious doesn't care. It reacts to emotion. Studies have shown that mental rehearsal activates motor and sensory areas of the brain almost identically to physical practice. Athletes use this. Musicians use this. Surgeons use this. The subconscious is being trained. Repetition strengthens these circuits. Lack of repetition weakens old ones. This is why bad habits fade when starved of attention, and good habits grow when reinforced. Napoleon Hill insisted on nightly repetition because sleep plays a crucial role. During sleep, the brain consolidates learning. It strengthens what was repeated most recently. The last thoughts before sleep receive priority. This is not mystical. This is biological efficiency. Your brain organizes information during rest. What you feed it last becomes dominant. This is why random thinking before sleep creates random results, and intentional programming creates direction. Over time, the brain restructures itself to support the new identity. Confidence stops feeling forced. Discipline stops feeling heavy. Action feels natural. Not because you tried harder, but because your brain adapted. This is why this system works even when motivation is low. Motivation fluctuates. Neural pathways remain. Napoleon Hill's greatest insight was this: you do not rise by willpower. You rise by conditioning. Condition the mind, and behavior follows. When success finally appears, people call it luck. They call it timing. They call it coincidence. Napoleon Hill rejected that idea completely. He observed that success is never sudden. It is only visible suddenly. Behind every overnight breakthrough is a long period of invisible conditioning. This is why stories of transformation feel dramatic, not because change was fast, but because preparation was hidden. Look at athletes who return from injury stronger than before. During recovery, they cannot train physically, but many train mentally. They rehearse every movement, every turn, every finish. When the body returns, the mind is already conditioned. Napoleon Hill explained that the subconscious mind accepts repeated mental images as facts. Once accepted, behavior aligns automatically. This pattern repeats across fields. A business person struggling for years suddenly finds clarity. Ideas start flowing. Decisions feel sharp. Opportunities appear. From the outside, it looks like luck. Internally, the identity shifted first. A student once paralyzed by exam anxiety visualizes calm focus every night. They feel confidence before it exists. On exam day, the fear is gone, not because the exam changed, but because the subconscious did. Napoleon Hill described this as the law of cause and effect. Mental causes always precede physical results. The mistake people make is looking for change too early. They expect results before the conditioning phase completes. But the subconscious does not reveal progress gradually. It reorganizes silently. Then one day, behavior changes effortlessly. You wake up different, not excited, not emotional, just certain. This is when consistency pays off. Most people quit just before this point. They stop one night early. They skip 1 week too soon. Napoleon Hill called this the tragedy of human effort, stopping when success is already inevitable. Because once identity stabilizes, reversal becomes difficult. You no longer force discipline. You protect it. You no longer chase opportunity. You recognize it. You no longer doubt yourself. Doubt feels foreign. This is why the routine must be followed without exception. Not because the universe is watching, but because your nervous system is adapting. Every night reinforces direction. Every night deepens identity. And then, when results appear, they feel natural, not magical, not surprising, inevitable. Everything you've learned so far leads to this moment, not motivation, not excitement, commitment. Napoleon Hill believed that knowledge without decision is powerless. It becomes entertainment. Transformation begins only when an idea is acted upon repeatedly. Tonight, the system becomes personal, not tomorrow, not someday. Tonight, the routine is simple, but simplicity does not mean weakness. 5 minutes to clear the mind, 3 minutes to visualize with emotion, 2 minutes to speak your auto-suggestion with authority, 10 minutes. But those 10 minutes are not equal. They carry more influence than hours of effort scattered throughout the day, because they happen when resistance is lowest, when belief enters quietly, when identity is rewritten without argument. This is why Napoleon Hill insisted that autosuggestion be practiced before sleep and immediately upon waking. Not to inspire, but to condition. Now comes the final act, writing. Writing by hand is not symbolic, it is neurological. When you write your affirmation on paper, multiple areas of the brain activate simultaneously: motor control, language, attention. This creates a deeper imprint. Napoleon Hill required written statements of purpose because writing transforms thought into form. It forces clarity. It eliminates vagueness. You write your affirmation clearly. One goal, one time frame, one value exchange. No decoration, no exaggeration. Truth with commitment. You place that paper where you will see it every night. Not to remind yourself of desire, but to remind yourself of decision. This paper becomes a contract, not with the world, with yourself. The next 30 days are non-negotiable. No skipping, no postponing, no bargaining. Napoleon Hill warned that the mind obeys authority, and authority comes from consistency. Each night you complete the routine, you strengthen self-trust. Self-trust is the foundation of confidence. Without it, discipline collapses. With it, effort feels light. You will not always feel inspired. That does not matter. You will not see immediate results. That is expected. The subconscious changes quietly, and then, without warning, something shifts. Your reactions change. Your decisions sharpen. Your tolerance for distraction drops. You do not feel like a new person. You feel like yourself, without resistance. This is how identity locks in. Napoleon Hill called this the moment when desire becomes faith, not hope. Faith. Faith built on repetition, not belief. At that point, failure becomes unlikely. Not because life becomes easy, but because quitting no longer feels possible. This is the difference between people who start and people who finish, between those who try and those who transform. Tonight, you decide which one you are, not with words, with action. 10 minutes, every night, for 30 days. That is all it takes to begin rewriting the story that has been repeating in your life for years. Your past does not matter. Your circumstances do not matter. Only one thing matters now: what you program tonight.